Hello, everyone. I'm NewsNOW from Fox host Regina Gonzalez, currently joined by Mr. Mike Gold, who is NASA's Acting Associate Administrator for International and Interagency Relations. Mr. Gold, how are you today?
Doing great. Thank you for your interest in space exploration and NASA.
Well, you know, your team at NASA made a big announcement on Tuesday, October 13th, a step forward in the future of space exploration. 8 nations signed the Artemis Accords. So, Mr. Gold, right off the bat, can you explain the Artemis Accords and who are these founding member nations?
Yes, it was a terrific day yesterday, not just for NASA, but for the entire world. Let me begin with the Artemis program, and that is NASA's effort to land the first woman on the moon and the next man by 2024. It's so exciting to be going back to the moon in preparation for Mars. And there's going to be awe-inspiring opportunities for new science and new discovery on the moon. And those new opportunities require a new legal framework. There's never been an exploration program like Artemis before. The Apollo program was terrific, but the problem with Apollo is one, that it ended, so we need to go more sustainably, and two, that there wasn't a lot of international cooperation. Now America will be leading the entire world back to the moon, and we need principles to guide us as we explore the moon and go on to Mars. And that's what the Artemis Accords are, a series of principles to ensure that we have a safe, transparent, and peaceful future in space for not only governments, but for the private sector as well to enjoy.
Now, aside from the United States really taking the lead, what other nations signed the Artemis Accords?
It's a terrific combination of both some of our traditional partners in space as well as new emerging space agencies. And it's so important to take advantage of their dynamism and new views. So we've got, in terms of traditional partners, Japan, which has always been a rock solid and just a fantastic ally for the United States, both here on Earth and in space. Canada, of course, one of our closest countries and trading partners. Then we've got some new entities, United Arab Emirates, for example, which I hesitate even to call them an emerging space agency. They've accomplished so much in so little time by launching the Hope probe, the first planetary probe by Emirates. Then we've got Luxembourg, which is a small country but has done some terrific policy in terms of space resources. Australia, another new entrant into the space world with their space agency, but one that's dedicating $150 million, their first tranche of funding, all to the Artemis program. So an excellent partner. Beyond that, we've got the United Kingdom, the UK, which is, of course, part of the European Space Agency and terrific ally for all that we're trying to do. So really good and diverse group of countries. And don't let me forget the Italians, who are looking to build a surface habitat on the moon as well, and again have been a good contributor via the European Space Agency. So these countries have a good diverse group in terms of geography, in terms of both new and old space agencies, or I should say well-established space agencies. And I want to emphasize it's just the beginning, that we are hoping to bring in many more nations over the course of the coming weeks, months, and years. The beauty of the Artemis Accords is that we can bring in, no matter how large or how modest the contribution, new countries to contribute and be a part of the Artemis program.
Now, you said the Artemis Accords are a set of principles. So breaking it down, what are some specific principles?
Let me begin with transparency, because at the heart of the Accords is to avoid conflict. As a science fiction fan, I like to say we want the future to be much more Star Trek and much less Star Wars. And the way to avoid conflict is to be transparent. That's a core principle of the Accords. The registration convention, another aspect of transparency. You need to register to say where you are and what you're doing. The deconfliction of activities, where we're going to have safety zones, which is an area where you may be operating. And within that area, there's a requirement to notify where you are to the entire world, and also to coordinate to avoid harmful interference, per the requirements of the Outer Space Treaty. We also recognize the common sense principle that in terms of space resources, which are going to be so important for a safe and sustainable space exploration campaign, as well as to go to the moon to stay, that you can extract and utilize those resources, and that should be done under the auspices of the Outer Space Treaty. We also push for the public release of scientific data, which is so important because NASA has always released all of its science data publicly, and that's a way to bring the whole world with us on this journey that is Artemis.
Now, what happens if these principles are broken, for lack of a better term?
That's a great question. And that's an issue that we're trying to address with the Artemis Accords. The Artemis Accords are grounded in the Outer Space Treaty, which you can think of as the sort of US Constitution of space law. It's our founding document. It's a treaty of principles, so it has a list of goals and objectives that we should achieve as responsible spacefaring nations, but there aren't any real consequences to violating the Outer Space Treaty. With the Artemis Accords and the popularity of the Artemis program, that we have received such robust interest throughout the world in participating in Artemis, our NASA administrator, Jim Bridenstine, wanted to leverage this opportunity to be able to say that for nations that join the Artemis program, we need to not only take our astronauts, but take our values to the moon, the Outer Space Treaty, the Registration Convention, the Rescue on Astronauts. And therefore, we're saying that if you want to join us on Artemis, if you want to participate, you must abide by these principles. So at the very least, if a country or nation doesn't abide by the principles of the Artemis Accords, they cannot participate in the Artemis program. So for the first time, there's an actual consequence to not following the principles of the Outer Space Treaty. We are operationalizing the Outer Space Treaty.
Now, with the Artemis program sending the first woman to the moon, the next man, in 2024, when they go, what will they be researching, and what is really the overall mission for the Artemis program?
So it's twofold, that we have so much more to discover on the moon. Not too long ago, we thought the moon was bone dry. Now we discovered that there's vast quantities of water ice on the moon. I guarantee you that that is just one of many discoveries that will completely transform our understanding of the moon, even of the Earth and how it was formed, and the universe as a whole. There's such amazing science we can do on the moon relative to its position for astronomy, that we can look out and see some of the deepest secrets of the universe from the beginning, literally, of our universe from the moon. So it's a terrific location to conduct just awe-inspiring science. Beyond that, we need to get to Mars. And the moon is a perfect platform to gain the experience with technology and processes to be able to train, to launch what will be humanity's historic first human mission to Mars. So we need to go to the moon, we need to go to stay, but it's going to enable that next step to the red planet, which we're so excited about.
So for a mission like this, why is international cooperation so important?
Space is hard, really challenging. And the ability to share risks, to share costs is so important, that we need to be able to do this together to achieve the incredible and ambitious feats that we're looking to do. And beyond that, it's a benefit unto itself, that by coming together in space, we build relationships, we build friendships and understanding with such a diverse array of cultures and countries that it impacts us here on Earth. Space is an extremely important diplomatic tool for the US and the world for us to go forward, build those relationships here on the planet, and again, ensconce the values and principles of the Artemis Accords for a peaceful future, not just for us and our partners, but for all of the world in space.
Great. Well, is there anything you'd like to add before we end?
Just that we're short on people, that we need not only astronauts, but more engineers, more scientists, more mathematicians. And there has never been a more exciting time in the space field. Not only do we have Artemis, but there's a commercial revolution taking place with new companies, with new technologies and capabilities. But we need people. So I would just encourage all of your young viewers who are interested in space, keep that dream alive, study math and science, and join us on this journey to the stars.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Gold.
Thank you for your interest, and we'll see you out there in space.